All right, our meeting to order.
Jason Wertz,
Here.
Tiffany Yant, here, Tony Bevel,
Here.
Doreen Leibel,
Here.
Lisa Patterson, like she's absent tonight, Richard Amici.
Here.
Okay, Tony Bevel. Tony Bevel?
I'm here.
Okay.
I said, I think.
I wasn't sure if I missed you or not, thank you.
All right, move on to minutes, any corrections? Anything to the minutes? If not, take a motion on those.
I move we accept minutes as is. Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, citizen comment, any written?
No citizen comments.
But we've had lots on, you know,
More since,
we've been busy.
you think it's all sparked from the one
Yes.
thing?
It is.
New stuff come in or responses to
All the
all the
above.
above? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be a busy winter for us.
All right, well, we got 4 new ones here, so
Let's try that.
on to the new traffic safety request, number 24-013. Request for speed bumps on Dewey Drive.
Reading of the complaint. Yeah, 13. Just.
My card.
The requester is asking for cars to slow down as person is getting flipped off by people. As they're speeding, they go faster. They have small kids over that street. Other neighbors have mentioned how dangerous their street is and they'd like speed bumps on Dewey Drive, especially around the curves.
So on this one, if you know where Dewey Drive is, it's up on the screen there. Dewey Drive is a road that feeds traffic in and out of the whole Woodhaven area, really. So you have people that are coming off of 99 on Mikey, they hit that traffic circle there, and then they get onto Dewey. Just right where the cursor is, they take Dewey and they follow it all the way down until it hits Woodhaven, and then people can then feed into the Woodhaven neighborhood. So this road has obviously residential that dumps right out onto Dewey on both sides of the road. It's a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone there, of course, just like everything else is. And it has no parking on the one side of the road. So it's just parking on the one side, not on the other. That's, I think, primarily due to the fact that if there was parking on both sides with the curvature of the road, it would make it just exponentially even harder for people to get through and or see obstacles. With that said, well, as I did say, it's a heavily traveled road to be able to feed in and out of the Woodhaven area. So the person's complaint of traffic on it is accurate. So what we're gonna do on this one is we're putting out the what do you call it, pneumatic tubes onto this street on 2 areas. It's a hard one for us as police to be able to kind of monitor for speeds. This is a complaint about speed on it, or just due to the curvature of the road and then the length of the road. So we're hoping to be able to get tubes on it, 2 separate spots to be able to see if you know, what data comes back to this complete time. So this one will have to sit for a month for us to be able to give you data back on it. But feel free to have skeptical.
When you come back with that info, can you pull whatever kind of accident history you have in there too?
I did that already. Accident history is a non-event there. There was an accident back there, back in, I think it was like 2016 or 2019, like some time ago. This complaint, I believe, made reference to accidents on it, and like I said, at least from our police records, it's not really aligning there. Like I said, we have the one accident.
Is that the car that flipped over?
Yes. Well, like I said, it was. I can't remember right now, but it was like 2016 or 2019. It wasn't as kind of reported as feeling like it was in the time now. We don't have to have it, is what I'm saying. Of accidents.
Is there, I have a concern about it being a curve and putting speed bumps where the road curves. Is that something that is okay? Is that something that's, again, that there's code regulations where you need to be straight for so long before a speed bump? Is there anything there?
Nothing in our code, but I mean, that's similar to a steep hill that's over 15%, they become car jumps. You don't want them there.
No, you don't want
And
to
similar
hit
to
it
that,
and
yeah.
deflect into a yard.
Yeah, it just becomes more of a risk. For this
We would
road.
also say too, like, we want that data back first before you even have to worry about the decisions. If we come back and it's a non-issue, then, you know, maybe a different discussion, right?
So it could be a hard street to speed on. How narrow it is with the cars parked on both sides and
And how short it is too. Seems
Supposed to park on one side.
parking on one side. Still, I mean, it seems kind of narrow. I mean, maybe they are, but
From Woodhaven, like if you look at the map up on the screen, at the very bottom where Woodhaven is, right when you turn on the Dewey there, that's about your best straight shot piece. We tested it multiple times driving it. That's your best spot to be able to kind of get up to that 25, or if you really wanted to be energetic, I guess you could get over it for sure, you know. Once you get into the curvature up more at the north end of that road, yeah, you'd be hard pressed to be able to be over 25.
This looks like a street that is mostly driven, I'd assume, by residents. And you would think that have a little respect for their own well-being and for other people on the road. And when you bring speed bumps, there's not going to make those people behave better. Opinion.
Once again, let me see the data
Might
back.
not even be a reason for speed
Yeah,
bumps.
we may not even.
All right, well, so we don't have to take any action, so we should just move on to the next request then, till we get more pending.
for me, so any other questions or?
It is a big strips.
Comments? 2024-14, request for four-way stop and crosswalk at Pine Street, Second Street intersection.
So on this one, we obviously, as you see on the map, you have your stop signs there at Third and Pine at the top of the screen. The cursor is, so you have stoppage there, and then as you proceed down Pine, you have nothing for stop signs at Second. Your next, there's nothing there where the cursor is. The next stop sign is at First. So the complaint is talking about slowing traffic down there, that there's hazards for pedestrians crossing at that location due to the speed of the traffic that's there. We did analysis on this one. We put officers at this location, sometimes covertly, to be able to monitor this for speed and for just hazards and pedestrian traffic there. We did not have an issue of speeding at this location. And we did not see anything that shocked the conscience in regards to pedestrians crossing and, you know, having to step back, et cetera, or anything that would, as I said, shock the conscience there for pedestrians at that location. So for us, from our analysis that we saw, we don't see it at this point as found it to be able to say that the speed complaint aspect and the hazards for the pedestrians crossing due to speed is an issue.
I think this might be more of a case where, you know, when you're standing on the street, cars look a lot faster than they're actually going. So it might look worse than it is. They're going 18, 20 miles an hour and you're standing 4 feet from it. It looks like you're going 40. But they're not.
It's a good point, and Jason and I were talking about this the other day, just to the aspect of the new construction there with the new apartment buildings there, and that's just produced a new dynamic of you used to have an open field there, now you have a structure there, and just that mindset of the sight lines are changed. So, but we didn't see any hazards as of yet. In regards to crash data, we don't have any crash data that's pinging on it for anything at that location either. In any recent time at all.
In regards to the crosswalk, I feel that very few people just need to get immediately across. Most people who cross are traveling further into Old Town or up towards the school and park, and therefore they can go 1 block either way and use the existing crosswalks, because there are existing crosswalks at further up at first and third. Yeah. So
Third, but first, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel that a crosswalk wouldn't be necessary either.
Feel that it's an issue after extensive, you know, watching of it, then I feel like there's anything we need to do. They don't think it's dangerous.
So basically, there's no data to justify the change. We close it, we tag it in the GIS system and close it. We're only good at that. Okay, I move that we acknowledge this request by putting in the GIS system, noting that there's not enough data to justify a change, and therefore we close the request without action.
Second.
Question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 2024-15, request for right turn only at Copper Terrace and Nursery Way, or additional patrols in area during drop off pickup hours at Ridges.
So on this one, the complaint specifically stated that cars are not paying enough attention at the crosswalks, making dangerous left turns with the peds at that location. Love to see this become a right-hand turn only. When you look at the map on this, obviously we have Ridges Elementary School here. Nursery Way is at the north end top of the school, just beyond their parking lot there, where the cursor is. It's the roadway that really leads to nothing but to the school for its parking lot there. So it's utilized by people coming in for drop-offs and going to the school and pickups. That said, we did analysis on this one covertly. So officers not in plain sight on this. This one was just so in the open, we didn't want to alter people's driving, and so we did this covertly for the majority of our observation on this. What we noticed is of over 200 cars tracked coming off of Nursery and having to turn either right or left onto Copper Terrace, as you can see there. Copper Terrace, southbound or northbound. The complaint is in regards to the vehicles that are turning left to go southbound on Copper Terrace. Of our analysis of it, we saw approximately 16% of the cars were making that left-hand turn. So a huge majority of it is just making the quicker, easier right-hand turn and going northbound on Copper Terrace up towards Edie. The other observations that we had of the traffic that was making those turns is that the people turning right and going northbound didn't have obstructions. There was no near misses with pedestrians or other cars, anything like that. Specifically to this complaint, the left-hand turns going southbound, of those few cars that did that, we also did not see any hazards in regards to them making their left-hand turns. And they weren't stuck there either for any prolonged periods of time either, in regards to being hung up there and causing a backlog of vehicles or anything for the other ones turning right. There's a crossing guard person that is working that intersection right there to help kids and pedestrians cross at that location. This complaint had originally talked about this complainant witnessing someone crossing at that cross guard position and it being a hazardous situation with the vehicle. But in our observations, the crossing guard is doing a good job and we weren't seeing any hazards that would make us say that this needs to be addressed with any changes. So the aspect of making this a no left-hand turn, we don't see as founded based on the evidence of what we saw. It's operating fine in that regard. The additional comment from the complainant was, you know, if those things aren't options to be able to do, to which we're saying, yeah, they're unfounded. It was also like, we'll increase the police presence there. All they can say is that we have the SROs are working in the high school and the middle school, and when time can permit, they're splitting. The day shift officers are going to elementary schools to deal with traffic and stuff throughout the city. So from your knowledge, and for those that watch online, there could be at any given time during the day, there could be only 2 patrol officers on. There could be 2 SROs as well, but to be able to deal with all the schools and that, we have to pick and choose and rotate and those things. Also calls for service that are happening at that same time too. So what I'm saying is we will address that with the complaint in regards to as time permits. We go there, monitor for traffic speed, just like we always have.
You zoom in a little, I just want to see where the crosswalk is in regards to that road. Oh, okay, so it's right there at the. Maybe turning left into that crosswalk, that was the one in the complaint.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, the crosswalk that goes between Copper Terrace. Yeah, but the one guard is handling both crosswalks.
And presumably everyone coming up that road has just picked up or dropped off a child and is aware that it's the school zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that road of nursery is really only feeding into the school area.
Okay.
Any chance while I never, Aurora was out there, any chance that anybody got a chance to speak with the crossing guard just to get another perspective?
We did not, we were doing covert on this one, so I did not speak with them.
Does the school district usually reach out proactively if they have a concern with traffic with their crossing guard? They would? Okay, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, presumably if they haven't reached out, it's not.
Or SROs would hear and we'd be already applying pressure to it, or would have that knowledge that this was a hot spot. Like I can tell you of another school, I won't, because I don't want to derail the meeting, but.
Archer Glen.
There might be, yeah, you're right.
You know how I feel
Well,
about
I was touch my nose when someone says it, but yeah, like, we have issues, right? And we know of those issues and we apply pressure to that specific issue. This has not been an issue for us, and the recent data from when the complaint came in still continued to show that we're accurate in that regard.
It also mentioned that they witnessed somebody almost cut off a pedestrian before the crossing guard was there. Do you know, is that what the hours are and
I don't.
And that's something that
I don't
the
know.
school would.
Yeah, I don't know how soon. Just by chance, how soon the crosswalk or the crossing guard,
That's like
people get out there before school
15 or
starts?
20
20 minutes is what you're
Minutes.
missing.
Pretty sure what I've seen when I was on day shift last, before the summer was 20-ish
Yeah.
minutes before.
At least 20.
And then, sorry, last piece on that, no crash data either for any accidents or anything at that location.
I would motion that. Close that one out. So no, your last one.
I was gonna say, is it just no action based on the data? So, okay, yeah, so I'll move to close this one with, no action based on the data. Second that.
Discussions.
And add to the GIS map, I guess, would also happen automatically or.
Yeah, automatic.
Yeah, they're all,
Everything will go.
stuff that gets emailed, and it doesn't become a complaint or a formal thing, I get logged in there too.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. 4-16, request for higher visibility crosswalks, crosswalk bump outs. Solar powered traffic lights at Third and Pine, Third and Washington intersections. Or to narrow roadway at Washington Street with painted lights.
So on this one, I'll give you the police data that we had on this. Jason may be able to add some additional layers to this in regards to just the. The complaint here is talking a lot about engineering changes to this location, so. That's it. We did covert observations location as well as market control officer observations of this location. This is very similar to another complainant that we'd had calling in talking about Third Street and speeds and traffic flow, et cetera, on it. Our observations on this, we ran radar overtly on this of vehicles, and of all the vehicles that we ran radar on, the average speed that we were having people at was 15 to 20 miles an hour. So the aspect of speed was, I would say, was deemed unfounded. It goes to, was it you, Jason, or Tony, that were saying, it was you, Darian, I'm all over the map, but that were saying sometimes speed perceptions are off, and especially in these smaller streets, that would be between Washington and Pine. It's a short street. Observations are also where there was heavy acceleration. So I could see totally how a person filing a complaint on it would think that speeds were high just due to the acceleration sounds that were coming from people traveling on Third. But the space to be able to accelerate beyond the 25-mile-an-hour speed just wasn't there. I think we had 2 cars that actually made it to 25 miles an hour, and the rest were all below. So unfounded on speed. In regards to pedestrians crossing, we saw kind of a bit of a mixed bag on this. On certain days, we saw very limited pedestrian crossings at Third and Pine, and other days we saw a little bit more. This was primarily due to the schools, right? Kids coming and going to school and parents walking kids. But we didn't observe any hazardous situations from our covert observation points of seeing pedestrians and cars mixing in a bad way. That said, we did see a substantial level of violation in regards to vehicles, as I would say, California stopping, failing to stop at stop signs at Pine and Third. Specifically to this complainant's issue, which was cars on Third coming to Pine. We repetitively saw vehicles on Third coming up to Pine, rolling that stop sign when making a right-hand turn onto Pine and coming deeper down into the Old Town. That is of the complaint and our observations. We would say that is the one piece that is substantiated. And to that, for when you're figuring out motions, we as a police department would say with what we observed, we need to apply pressure to this in regards to enforcement and education to those that are at that intersection in regards to coming stops. So I'll leave the motion pieces to you all, but we understand that that's definitely in our observation, something that's probably needed.
Is it not, you made it sound like it's not very heavily traveled by pedestrians, so like students must be taking a different
Yes,
way to get through that intersection?
like I was saying, it's a mixed bag. Some of our observation days, it was like very little, and other days it seemed like it was, pretty good. But a lot of the pedestrian traffic was on, if I remember correctly, it was on Pine Street on the north side of the road. Yeah, right where the cursor is, and people on that side. There wasn't a lot crossing. Like being on Third and having to cross Pine to get to the other side.
I haven't gone back to day shift yet. I'm still on swing shift for the rest of this week. I go back to days next week. But last year I would sometimes I'd park in the field, I'd sit in this parking lot, or I'd sit up closer to this crosswalk here to monitor. And most people are coming out of Old Town on this side of the street. And if anybody's on this side, it's not that it doesn't happen. I rarely see people trying to cross here because I think parents that are walking their kids to school know that it's just going to be too dangerous. And they all walk up and then use this crosswalk, which is controlled by a school crossing. But yeah, it's what I have seen, at least last year, it was rarely used by at least parents and students for the school.
I think on this one, the complainant also had talked about just that the driving patterns, et cetera, on Third, speeds, aggressive, just a problem, accidents, cars getting hit, et cetera. Our crash data on this was that there was an accident actually in May of 2024. I would say that the complainant was actually one of the victims, their car was hit, but in the complaint in regards to that, cars are getting hit because of speeds and because of the way cars are traveling on Third. I don't think we can connect it to that crash. That's the only crash that is on that street in that period that we have on record. And of that person had a stroke while driving and careened off into 3 cars. So I would not deem that accident to be based on the fact that we have a crazy driving pattern. We had someone who had a medical issue. And I don't have any other crash data that's showing any other crashes at that location between Washington and Third intersection and Pine and Third.
Did you guys watch the crossings at Third and Washington as well?
We did as well, and same thing, as I found it, and we ran radar actually Washington and Third going, what would you call that, kind of southbound, so further away from Pine. So we also did it down that way as well for an additional block, and we did not have speed issues there.
Was part of the complaint, a mid-block crossing further down or?
So
To do stuff at Third and Washington, because they really don't put flashing beacons and stuff on.
I think they were asking for bump outs, like,
Hold out, yeah, okay. yeah.
like bump out type concepts to slow traffic at Third and Washington and or Pine and Third. As well as other speed reducing measures to reduce the speed. So,
Yeah.
but like I said, we just didn't have a speed issue there.
Yeah, you could have a speed issue.
There's volume, the complaint's spot on, in regards, there's volume. For people that are, you know, making their way to and from work or wherever.
And a lot of kids cross the street at Third and Washington to walk to the middle school. So, I mean, it can get kind of pedestrian heavy, but it's pretty short for them.
Do you want me to speak to the plan? The city knows about the ramps. We're doing our ADA transition plan. There are some deficient ramps there. That will be put into the plan, but I don't think you need to make a motion to like put it at the top of the list. We are aware that the striping is a little bit. They could be improved on the roads when we do pave the next round of paving. So that's on the list, but if you notice, there's
You're
two.
talking about Pine and Third.
Yeah, just the things that can go do the turn lanes correctly where the major flow is striped for the through movement, not like as a turn lane. So just some minor, little adjustments there, move the stop bars around. But there are two undeveloped lots there too, if you see that. And so those are, as they develop, gonna be the driving force behind this, how this intersection unfolds. So I don't think there's really much committee can do to sound like we don't have a plan here in place. So it's really the same problems that bulb outs, things like that would be applied to the whole Old Town district versus one location.
One property is owned by the city though.
This one's owned by the city right here.
There's some control over timing of development and at least some knowledge about whether or not it's gonna happen anytime in the near or distant future.
I think the city's been trying to get that developed for a long time. Yeah,
I think that's kind of my
Yeah.
point, like, if it's not gonna happen.
that's gonna happen. Then we, at some point in time in the committee, then would say, hey, that's not happening. So let's make a motion to
That,
get a project
when
going.
we first started looking at that, I was like, that intersection is really lacking in pedestrian improvements. But it sounds like people have found alternate ways to get where they need to go without using that heavily, so.
I am the school too. I think we looked at that too, where folks will go that way around the school or through the school to kind of get to the other side of like Walmart area. So there are ways to, yeah, you're right, to get around that intersection.
But that short stretch of
That's a plan. It's a
Washington has a lot of traffic.
Washington has a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, not Washington, Third.
Third,
That short stretch of Third gets a lot of traffic.
the whole stretch.
Yeah, at times it's backed up, like the whole street. It's
People are like going between Washington and
people coming from Sherwood Boulevard to get onto Washington or coming from Old Town, trying to get either to or from the middle school. So certain times of the day, it does turn into a,
But we can add signal warrant analysis with our TSB update for those. I'm interested. I know that First and Pine. The old TSPs showed that needs a signal at some point in time. I don't know about these locations.
But to summarize, for this complaint, based on speed for that location. And making alterations of bump outs and any other type of measures to reduce speed. We don't have a speed issue here. We have not seen a pedestrian hazard issue. And cars getting hit and things like that due to craziness. Like I said, medical issue, not anything else that we're seeing pattern to at all with accidents.
maybe a similar motion.
Well, I had a question, because she does mention about vehicle crashes. Were those just unreported then?
I'd have to reread it, but if I remember correctly, I think it was being all lumped into, in essence, that one accident, which was May of 2024.
Oh.
3 vehicles got hit, and I think the way it's written makes it sound like there's multiple crashes.
Mhm.
But then when I went and read the report on it, I'm like, well, no, it's one crash on one day with multiple cars, but due to medical issues, so. And when we did the search for those locations for any other crashes, we have none.
Okay.
Or any like other reports written of a pedestrian getting bumped or knocked off a bike or anything like that, we have nothing.
Sounds like no action except for additional enforcement and
Also, I just want to mention higher visibility crosswalks. We'd look at that if that's, they're referring to the Continental potentially changes, I don't know, but we would look at that with the paving too. I just didn't want, if they're listening, thinking that we aren't evaluating things like that, but
Yeah, like I think you said, that's a layered approach down the road when the more overall project base is looked at for the, for there, right? Nothing that would be dealt with at the traffic safety committee level. This would be a massive project. So not, this wouldn't be our community that would be dealing with something like that, right, Jason?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that roadway scheduled to be paved in the near future?
we've kind of paved different sections. Southwest Sherwood Boulevard will probably be coming up here. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but in the next 5 years. We paved that in 2008 with a federal stimulus grant. Still looks decent, but I can look into that, but I mean, that's the same story I say for every street when they're striping but just every paving project, we reevaluate the striping, try to improve it, so. These sorts of comments could be addressed, or small things can be fixed.
The good news, and Officer Pierce can speak to this way better than even I can, is that, as I said, we really need to attack this in regards to the stop sign violations that are occurring there. It was excessive. Like, I didn't run a percentage on it, but of the data I got, it's extremely high. So
Percentage of people actually stopping is low.
remember when I gave you that other one where I said the violations were like 16%? Actually, like, it'd be the flip side of that, right? So my point to this is that when, you know, like a traffic officer, like Officer Pierce and other patrol teams, not just day shift teams, this is a swing shift team initiative as well for those commuters in the evenings and stuff like that too. When we apply that pressure, and hopefully you work this into your motion that we need to do this, that positively will affect the stop sign violations, but it'll positively affect traffic flow and people's attention, et cetera, on that whole stretch of Third. So in essence, I feel like it does address and help out this complainant and those neighbors with the flow of traffic that's on there. Chris, anything additional, agree, like us being there will cause a greater impact. Yeah.
Flashing stop signs.
So how many available vehicles do you have to, put on the streets to get visibility without having to have a patrol officer in that vehicle?
Depends on the day.
So sorry, Terry, you mean like covertly to observe it?
Or do you mean just park an empty vehicle?
Right.
We don't typically do that tactic too often. That's
I guess where I'm going is that, you don't have enough officers
yeah,
to do the whole city. If you park vehicles and,
yeah.
you see a police car, you're gonna pay attention.
For example, when agencies have done that for decades, it was an older technique. Back when I was younger in my career and I didn't have gray hair. I'll give you an example. You'll see that over at close to the Portland Airport. They do that at the same spot all the time. There's Don't always officer in the car. We all know that. Need I say more? So it just doesn't have the proper impact to do that, to put the car there and not have someone in it. So we will apply officers to it.
There was wooden cutouts.
Yes, yeah, we can sure we actually had a motor officer sitting on a motorcycle, a police motorcycle with a radar gun like that, and it was a full-size cutout. Yeah. That was a lot of years ago, so.
We thought possibly like what's up at Snyder on Sunset Boulevard, motion activated stop signs, the LED flashing stop signs, just to sort of highlight, stop.
I can speak to that a bit. Jason can probably speak to it also, you know, but those are up there and those exist, and we're still dealing with a complaint that's coming in regards to that same location. It's
More visibility at night, but that's about it.
we had complaints that people saying now that those are there, they think people actually, they try to get it to go off.
This one might work too.
So
This might be a good spot for them. I don't know.
When people know there's a
There,
stop
yeah.
sign there, I mean, it's like a
Yeah.
key intersection there, if you,
Yeah.
I feel like it's just an intentional. Just.
And the quirky striping kind of gets you to go slower through there anyways, where you're like, is this a left? And so,
if your idea is not a bad idea, Dorian, it has value. I would say to it is that we apply police officer resources to it, because at the end of the day, we want to educate too, right? A lot of that, Pierce will spend a lot of time where we say, hey, we do have a problem in this spot, we need to address it. We'll spend a lot of time doing a lot of traffic stops where he's educating. And not necessarily scratching tickets, right? And then when you see that correct it through education, then that's successful law enforcement, right? We don't want to be a law enforcement that goes straight to the heavy hands, straight to handcuffs, straight to citations. That's not proper policing, right? So we want to educate and try to correct behavior in that way. And then when that doesn't work, then we go to citations with officers to produce that impact. And when that doesn't work, then we can go to other things like other resources. If we're seeing that our efforts aren't working, we need extra help, then we'll go to electronics and things like that to try to maybe help us. So we'll monitor that, and as it, hopefully we can improve it, and there could be a complaint that pops up down the road, and things are cyclic, right? People get on board and then we kind of fall off a little bit, and then we apply a little bit of pressure. But yeah, I wouldn't say that we wouldn't put electronic gating devices at a location, but not yet.
You guys let me know if I'm missing anything, because this is kind of a big one. I move that we task the police department with enforcing and educating traffic compliance at that intersection. And we can respond to the complainant, letting them know that striping updates and crosswalk improvements are part of a larger plan that'll be coming when the area is repaved. And therefore we closed this with no further action from this committee.
Other than we can't probably task them with anything, but.
We will ask, not task, we'll ask.
We got you.
task.
Is that covered?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussions? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? All right. On to pending traffic safety requests. This one's 24-001, no parking signs on one side of the street at Woodhaven between Costa and YMCA. Like distance between Costa and Woodhaven. but-
Signs are not up, but today I worked with our interim public works director to make the argument for the paint. We had initially said not to do that, but there's some paint out on one area and then the other end, and with the signs, I kind of pointed out that it might be confusing to some to drive up and see the gaps, and they might park there, so we'll go ahead and paint that too. So the signs will hopefully be up in the next 30 days. We sent out notices in August for that, 30 days is up for the signs. And then we'll have to push the curb paint off to another location, which actually we'll talk about here with Marika and the boxes. But so the good news is that we're getting the curb painted. I think it's gonna look a lot better, and this will be the only other place that we paint with yellow paint. So it's the only, special treatment we'll get. No, but this was a special circumstance where we had kind of two sections of yellow, so we'll connect it, but yeah, that's the update. Keep it on here. I don't think you guys need to do anything with it, and it should be done in stages over the next 30 and 60 days.
All right. 2024-004, requesting flashing sign at crosswalk on Sunset.
I think we already responded to the flashing signs at the crosswalk. That I don't know how we fix it, but we're not doing that. I think, what was my update here?
The one is, it just stays on until the mailbox.
So the mailbox was mentioned, and we did finally get a hold of the postmaster. And I talked to them and coordinated a new location for it, but with that brings a whole bunch of ADA compliance paint. So we have about 5 concrete panels that were taken out of the sidewalk and messing with the curb height. And getting that done, that should be done within the next 30 days for the concrete. And then the mailbox unit will be relocated. So that's gonna be another kind of unison with the previous project, 30 and 60 days to get done, so. Good news is we have some clarity on what we wanna do. Bad news, it's gonna take half a fall to get it done, but.
Where's it being moved to?
The other side of Marika.
So this is the mailbox right here,
Yeah.
and now that white dot.
So go almost in front of the black car there, right about there. That way, east a little bit. Right about there. With that, yeah. I'll have to do a full about too on the backside too, so we can meet the 5 feet clearance around the cluster box, but good thing is we didn't have to buy a new cluster box for the post office. A lot of times it turns out that way, so.
So they just approved you guys moving from one place to the other? Or
I think they did. Our engineering department thinks that they also meant that we need to make it all ADA compliant. I'm not gonna argue with them on that, so yes. That's kind of how they put the post office said it to me, yes, you can move here.
So this intersection, I've seen a lot of social media conversations about it. There's a lot of concern there, the crosswalk specifically. And I know we talked about no flashing lights. I've driven it now just after 8 o'clock after school has started and heading east. You get the sun right in your eyes. And now that I know about the mailbox, I'm looking to see if someone's hiding behind it. And that takes your focus away from the crosswalk. And yeah, I definitely see how that's a concern. The mailbox needs to move. Same thing with coming west 6-ish nowadays. The sun's right in your eyes too. It's really hard to see both ways. And that made me think that first off, flashing lights wouldn't be effective if you have an amber flashing light when the sun's in your eyes. You're not going to see it. So I still agree with our decision from before. But Also, I noticed that there are signs on the side of the street that says state law, like stop, in crosswalk, something like that. They're like vertical yellow line or signs. I also noticed in front of the middle school that those same signs exist, but they're actually like on bollards in the crosswalk on the road. Is that an option here so that someone visually sees an object in front of them and it kind of gives them the idea of a pedestrian in the crosswalk so they
We
slow?
did have those here at one point.
Uh,
I don't know if they got.
So we could put something back like that, but it has a stop sign on it and the last time I looked into this, yeah, those need to be yield signs. Because it's.
or the little tiny,
Yeah, I mean, you're driving it by, if you've got a stop sign and.
well, they're still there. They're just.
Oh, yeah, they're happening, they,
On the
it would be
sides.
need to replace throughout the city, I don't, all sorts of cities are putting these in. But you're asking for additional enhancements.
I'm wondering if it makes sense to place those in the road, in the crosswalk, you know, between the lanes to give a visual, to make it seem like there's someone, whether it's a child or a bollard, who knows, but there's something in the crosswalk. I'm now seeing it from the side of my eye and I should stop.
You're talking about the yellow reflective ones kind of by the middle school?
Yeah.
They, I don't know how long ago they were put in here. They were in right here. And I remember when they first went up, I go, those aren't gonna last. And sure enough, they did.
Yeah,
I think
they had run
we
it down a lot.
got
Over,
Yeah.
they did not last.
So that's probably why they got moved, not because it was repaved.
They were just getting hit either by mirrors, like, I think it was not even a week if I remember right. I drove by it, I'm like, the thing's already broken.
Oh, really?
And there, the signs also. If you have a regularly sign in crosswalk with the yellow signs and ahead. My understanding in talking to a traffic engineer that if you put that, you can't put, those are two different separate types of traffic control devices.
Uh-huh.
And if you put the one with the either yield here or stop here, you can't have all the other crosswalk enhancement signage.
Including conflicting information or something.
And so I haven't really gotten a decision on that. I know we put these up everywhere. I'm not really broadcast if it is an issue, because cities are doing this all over the place, but what I hear you saying is you want some sort of, really, you could do an island would probably be the best treatment as a concrete island for refuge and then bulb outs on both sides. So really here, you're just crossing that one lane, refuge into an island and then another lane of traffic, and then you're into the bulb out. So these are concepts that we can probably capture overall, like bulb outs and preferences for, you know, school crossings to keep them short. But then you guys probably make a recommendation, but now it's a pretty big project here. I mean, you could always recommend policies and standards, right? That, you know, we would enhance crosswalks at schools. I think it's probably a good one, but
Mhm.
I don't, this one's a tough one because it's there, we repaved it. And you got a good point with the sun and the push button flashing beacons that, what if we put those in and it doesn't, it just, the sun
Doesn't do anything.
blinds it, but.
Well, regardless, I think that we need to wait until the mailbox is moved. And kind of figure out what kind of an impact that change had before we talk about this further, because we already have one plan in place. So we might as well see that one out.
I'd like to hear, I know you guys, there's been somebody out there at Main and Sunset almost every day, and then several days, there's been an officer standing with the crossing guard at this one. I'm just curious, what are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Up to the intersection at Main and Sunset, yeah, that's problematic, just with people just wanting to push through, you know, that there is more of an enforcement issue. It's not a visibility issue, nothing. We've got people that are stopping and flipping off the officer and the crossing guard and, you know, blowing past both of them, you know, so it's not that intersection, at least from what I'm hearing from the officers doing that, and Chris can add to it if he wants. It's not a visibility issue or anything like that. It's just frustrated drivers wanting to get going. And that is strictly just enforcement that needs to occur on that to try to correct behavior there. Now, I agree with Richard in regards to you're farther the other way with your crosswalk and the mailbox. It's really, yeah, you have your motion, you have set what we're gonna do. Jason's working hard to make that happen, wait for that to happen, and if for some reason we start continuing to have complaints where it's like, that still didn't fix it. We still have a problem at that crossing guard, then I would say new complaint, new discussion. And
Yeah, I mean, we could take it to another level where maybe there's a better spot for the crosswalk. I mean, there's things we could have changed or done differently, but obviously we're not gonna go tear the road up.
yeah,
And,
They did repaint the crosswalk in a different spot.
yeah, we moved it a slight,
Yeah.
a few feet, but we didn't go
Closer to where.
have
the
public
mailbox is
meetings and all
now.
that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
They were
it's
out.
not good.
It's very
What they
bright
did is
and
they-
vibrant though.
They lined it up with this walking path right here.
gotcha.
And I mean, you can let this stuff expand. We could have public involvement and polled everybody and then said, do you want to combine combine A or B? And then it's just, so we're doing a paving project and this is what we did. And put back and it's an improvement. And if we keep getting lights, like you said, let's get it more.
I haven't said that, Jason, I haven't called you chair yet today. So chair, I think, I'd have a reason. I think you're on the right path. You have a motion, you have something in place. We, the city, Jason has something in place to improve this. See if it does. Stepping stone approach.
I know from experience, anything that you stick in the road is going to get hit. I replaced the school zone beacon at Sherwood Boulevard that's no longer there at least 5 times in 4 years. And that was a 4-inch rigid conduit pole. And it got whacked every year, sometimes multiple times.
More than the final hit that took it down for good.
And then they asked me to just put a base with a cap on it, and the base got hit.
I think we mentioned it was 2 traffic control devices with a signal there. So they didn't have to put the flashers back this time. And so hopefully that's why they didn't put it back. Just gonna say. Nothing. Never mind.
Well, I've driven it every day because I have a kids still there and I've been trying to pay attention and I think that the mailbox thing, I think is an issue, but I don't think it's the issue that they're complaining about. And I think that the school hours is part of the problem, but I think that, and I talked to a resident at soccer practice one night, and so I heard a lot about, what they're seeing, their concerns are. It's not just school hours, it's like, other times of the day when it's 35 mile an hour and you have to cross to go take your kid to some after school thing or bring him home or whatever. And that street is really wide, like what you were just talking about, Jason, it's really wide. In the morning during school, there's a crossing guard. I watched the crossing guard go out and stand in the middle of the street and I think like, I would not, be comfortable doing that. When I go out in traffic, for work, we always make sure we have 2 people, 1 person watching each direction. She's standing there with her back to me as I'm pulling up to turn right into the school and I'm thinking, you have no idea what's behind you because she's not watching, but she's doing what she's supposed to do. I just think like, that's so wide, like they need 2 crossing guards for each lane, which they're probably not gonna do. Because of resources, but really that intersection, I feel is well warranted. Funding, allowing bulb outs on an island and it's a 35 mile an hour major street through town out of school. And I think that's what it needs.
Can you do bulb outs on an island on that high of a speed?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 14 feet down between them.
Okay.
yeah. But I recognize that's a big project. And maybe we wait until the mailbox is moved, but I guarantee you won't get another complaint. Because that's not gonna solve the problem that I hear.
Yeah, I
kind of what I
totally
feel.
agree. The intersection is scary to cross. And there's people, like Jason said, like all hours of the day are using it to go over to the school for soccer practices or school events, and it's scary crossing even with a crossing guard there. So it's just really big.
And maybe it ends up being even a bigger project than what you just said, a bump outs, like who knows, right?
Well, I think it could get relocated over away from the truck driveways with bulb outs, and then we'd have, put another one over at St. Charles and then we put the Continental bars west of St. Charles, and I don't know if I like that crosswalk much at all where that's at either, so,
Well, they did paint that new
yeah,
crosswalk
that one.
from the end of Eucalyptus across Sunset. Which is nice because there's tons of kids that cross out of that neighborhood across the street to cut through Archer Glen to go to the middle school.
One thing that I think may drive complaints here is just either the understanding or lack of understanding what the pedestrian crossing law is. So for example, this black car right here, if it's traveling down the road and you're trying to cross the highway, as long as you're not past this yellow line, this car can legally drive right on through. Cars only have to stop if you're in the crosswalk in the lane the vehicle is in or the adjacent lane. The center lane is considered a lane, so a pedestrian can start walking to right here. Once they cross this yellow line and they're in this middle lane, the car has to stop. Anything before that over here, they can drive right on through. There's nothing we as law enforcement can do about it because it's a perfectly legal action for the vehicle.
It's another
It's
reason.
really the only way to, yeah.
For our kids.
Yeah.
That's scary. I've never stepped out of the street unless I knew the car coming down the other way would stop when I knew they were. gonna
And the
stop.
other thing that a lot of people don't know too is when you're standing on the sidewalk on either side, waiting to cross, in order to be considered a pedestrian and force vehicles to stop, a part of your body or an extension of your body, so say like a walking stick or like a cane or something, has to physically be on the street. So you can stand on the sidewalk all you want, cars don't have to stop. They can just drive right on by. You actually have to take your foot, put it on the street, then they have to stop. So you have to be in the street to make cars stop. Which I don't. It's just the way the law is written. I'm not saying I agree with it or it's safe. But
These days, they could probably end up updating that ordinance to if you're standing on the truncated dome. Right before the crossing, then you should stop because you're indicating that you want to cross. That yellow truncated dome right there, that's sort of like your spot to like get ready to cross, right? But as you say, it's not that way yet.
yeah,
On that other two spots on Sunset further towards 99, there's a study that was done. Is there more work happening on that? Or that study's done and?
That was that section west of Pinehurst, but yeah, we do need to do another one to
I'm just
the
wondering
east.
if there's like
Yeah.
something that we can just make a motion to like
Oh, yeah,
tag this
we
on to
should.
something else that's already in progress so that it gets.
So this Timbrel one is funded with the safe routes to school.
We'll find out. It's. I think,
Or,
the
yeah, that's
final
the plan, is to fund it with that. So I'm not sure it can be attached to this one.
Yeah, I'm thinking more something like maybe you're just part of your TSP. Or something like that. I agree that I would hesitate personally to to get behind a motion to do something physical at that location without somebody really looking at it to make sure that that's the right spot for it. And I also don't want to just like kick the can forever or, years down the road and I don't know. I don't know if there's a middle ground there.
Well, keep in mind too, and this, we've done this before, is we always have to kind of remember our scope for this team, right? So like the big project at Timbrel and Sunset, while that was brought here for you guys to kind of see that project, that was well outside the scope of what traffic safety committee was.
That was in that one study though. I mean, I don't know where what you're thinking is. I always envision two additional studies, one for Pinehurst to Main Street and another one from Main Street all the way over to Murdoch. Just to figure out kind of the same sort of things. Where are the crosswalks now? Where do they need to go? And then which ones need to be closed to be compliant? Because we're technically supposed to be barricading all the crosswalks that aren't, available. And then having everything be ADA compliant and be in the right spot. Probably have public involvement, things like that, and then snuff this out, and then we'd have a plan for each of the corridors. So when paving projects come in, they can make the changes. But currently, there's no studies in our budget that are similar to that.
And to reiterate, the way outside the scope of what this team is supposed to do. It's in our bylaws. It's literally right there that that would be well outside.
What part of it?
To make major.
Major engineering. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
TSP update will kind of evaluate this stuff, and if it doesn't have the funds to do that, it would just identify it as a sub-study. And then we'd find ways to do that, because TSPs do evaluate stuff like this, but if they get into the weeds of all these corridors and crosswalks, then you miss the meat and potatoes of your TSP update. So those probably will not be in our TSP update to do those in-depth corridor crosswalk studies, but definitely you can see the value and why you would want to do that. So when you come in with your paving project, you aren't forgetting about your mailboxes and your crosswalks and whatnot. And the distance that you have to walk in the road.
TSP's there every 5 years, is that it?
I believe we're supposed to update our rates every 4 years, and then like every 10 years, the whole plan. But we're trying to do every 4 or 5 years is the goal, but we're usually doing it every 10 years lately, so.
So where are we with the last update?
2016, we did an RFP, we just got a consultant selected, and we're gonna start that project next month.
I kind of feel like what I'm getting is that after the mailbox is moved, we've kind of done our part, but we could move to like escalate it to, whatever body wants to look at it next as a big major improvement to that area. And it sounds like kind of, we don't just want to let it close and be done. We want someone to say, put this on your list of things to pay attention to. Is that kind of reasonable?
This case would close for traffic safety committee, but yeah, it could be with a recommendation for TSP to review it
To run with it.
for a big project.
But then kind of feels like, yeah, that's where we're heading then.
Then all the
Well, the mailbox ones moved, yeah.
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah. Oh. 24-005, request to extend sidewalk south of Edie Road along Elbert. Student school zone, area to start Hanley heading south. And the right turn only on Hanley. I think what's left is the school zone discussion and then the vegetation.
I looked into the school district or the school zone explanation and just try to give you a really quick explanation of why it is the way it is. And the county, or in most agencies, I don't think anybody does school zones in traffic signals. The county pushes their school zones out of the traffic signal, and the same thing for roundabouts. And so they excluded the roundabout from the school zone and the traffic signal from the school zone, which is why we have the gap school zone on Elbert like that. So their standards are not to allow school zone through traffic signals or roundabouts, which are behave similar to traffic signals. So it is what it is. City's gonna take over jurisdiction of Haid, so at some point that's going to become a school zone. We can put the signs up and do that ourselves. So for this one, you could make a motion for me to submit a formal request to the county to vote or to get an answer out of them potentially to try to go against their standards and make it more of a layman's term or a layman's school zone, you know, where it starts to the north of the signal and basically extends all around the site and see what happens. Or we can just accept that it's a county facility and this is their interpretation of how they do school zones and see if we keep getting complaints about it.
Figured you would show that one. The beacon here.
So you said they don't include roundabouts?
I mean, that there, I don't know.
I'm not trying to, I was just
This
curious.
traffic signal was the
Yeah.
one that is definitely in there. I don't know about the roundabout though.
Cause I was gonna say, this one, the school zone, it's weird because it starts when you enter the roundabout and then it stops right up here after you leave the roundabout.
Because you're getting to a traffic
You're
signal.
coming up to the traffic signal. So
Yeah.
that's the same answer I got from,
Yeah,
yeah, Sarah, when I called, when the school opened, I called him like, did something get messed up here? Cause this doesn't make sense. And she explained it to me too, and it was.
so that's the county has set it up the way that they operate their school zones. We can try to change it, but they're telling us they're not gonna change it. That's the way it is. We do have Elworth Road that needs to be improved and extended north, so there's probably an opportunity to convince them otherwise with that project, but it's quirky. I mean, we are gonna have Hayden that will be a school zone up to the signal, so I mean, that's probably half of the issues. Everybody's like, whoa, why is that not school zone? Well, that should be. This portion is just traffic signal, no school zone, then starts school zone, so. And then it ends on Kruger too. Which it's, yeah, also an interesting explanation for that, but. That's because the school district doesn't route student traffic and stuff through the back of the school, is my understanding, so. I think the school district might be able to influence extending that school zone, but we haven't gotten any complaints about Kruger. I'm just kind of explaining all the.
Yeah.
The whole site's not surrounded by many school zones, I guess, is kind of what everybody notices, and so we keep getting complaints about. Why are there no school zones around the school? Is basically what the complaints are.
Yeah. Once the city takes over Hayden and they post school, are they gonna lower the speed to 20 as well?
Yeah.
When's that supposed to happen?
Transfer jurisdiction of Hayden at. End of this fiscal year, June 30th, perhaps. I don't know. That seems about reasonable if we get going now.
Is the city planning just put up like school zone sign or another beacon up there?
We're gonna redo the signs altogether, take them down. Take 25-mile-per-hour signs down, put 20 and just turn it into a school zone. And then we probably won't put school zone ends as you get to the signal. We'll just make it appear as a school zone all the way up there to the traffic signal so we can enforce to the crosswalk, I guess. So that's my explanation. I recommend not doing anything. I personally don't want to reach out to the county to try to get them to change something that they've told us a million times that why they did it the way they did it. So, and we have more projects coming to make it happen. So
The traffic engineers think it's conflicting to put a flashing beacon in front of a signal that comes on. It causes confusion if you have flashing light and you can see the green light at the same time. And this, you have a speed limit, it's too conflicting, and that's why they didn't do it. Otherwise, yeah, I think you can have a beacon within 600 feet of school grounds. So they would be able to put it quite a bit farther north, but because of the signal, they think it conflicts too much, so they just wouldn't do it.
And I can see why they made Elworth the school zone intermittent, just when the beacon's flashing, because when school's in session, does Elworth really need to be 20 all day long outside of, your pickup drop off time? I don't know that I agree that it would, so that makes sense why they wouldn't want to put the beacon closer to the traffic light. But it's just, I can tell you, it's so interesting to me when I patrol here, because I like to patrol here in the Elks, the gravel driveway. And you see people come out of the roundabout. And most people, they just come out of the roundabout and gun it up the hill while they're still in the 20 school zone. And I usually have conversations with them. But the other aspect of that is I just find it so, I personally find it dangerous that you get past the school zone ending and you can speed right up and you're coming up to the intersection, which is where all of the kids are standing and crossing the road. Like, so you're allowing traffic, and I get their explanation that, yeah, we let the traffic control device do its thing, but when it's green, kids are standing on the side of the road, cars are flying by them.
Terrifying.
It is, because I mean,
99W, yeah.
everybody's,
Yeah, that's the one where Meineke and 99W are about to take off and there's kids like standing
yeah,
right next to my car already.
yeah, and you know,
Front of it.
kids are kids, they're busy being distracted or doing this or that, so yeah, every time I look at this, I fear for, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, don't like it much either.
That's, yeah, I mean, it's not, but it's compliant, so what can we do?
Yeah, that's the thing, we can't.
Really? Keep asking, but you know, notion to have us ask every year, every time we see Sarah, but not too much. Really, fine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel we should just close it. There isn't really anything else we can do. I'm not an engineer. If I was, I would have done that whole thing different. I would have had them merge into one lane right there, just left and straight and made a school zone the whole way, but it happened for a reason, and maybe if it ever gets repaved, we can weigh in with our inputs then.
In a perfect world, I would love to see from here all the way up here to Hanley be a school zone,
Yeah.
all of this.
That would make sense. Yep.
Yeah, just they put the school zone in the roundabout because we're driving slow through the roundabout, but just why even have it in there then? If they're already driving slow, like it's like
can't-
making Old Town a school zone. It's like it's already 0 miles per hour.
It's funny to me because even without posting it as a 20 through the roundabout, you're not speeding through that
Yeah.
roundabout, especially with heavy traffic. It's just not gonna happen. Physically, you can't get that fast.
It's a big striping that merges down that just says floor it, you know?
Yep, let everybody off. Yeah, you gotta get one car ahead.
I could get away with having a third beacon on the northwest, that north beacon that faces north, but a south facing third head, because we have lots of triple head beacons. Wonder if I could get away with asking about that, because it wouldn't
To
be.
get it out of the way. Yep.
Just pointing at the northbound traffic. You know, just for a little extra something. It's like, hey, you're still in a school zone,
Yeah,
you know?
you're still here.
I think this, I mean, it sounds like this one, the striping and the school zone are something we're all gonna put in here in the county for every year or 3 months.
All right, need a motion.
Close 24-005.
Second.
Say about it,
That's
guys.
pretty good. Well done.
That's all we gotta do. A second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, 24-008, request for speed bumps, speed limit signs, or yield sign at Cinnamon Hills.
So this one, I'm speaking for Chris on this, but I know that Chris was doing analysis on this, but was wanting to Also, we were waiting to have school start, which we've had now in the past month, but we were also waiting for Chris to transition to his new shift, which will be day shift as of next week, right, Chris?
Wednesday
Next week. So we'd like to push this one for another month so that Chris can get daytime enforcement and data for you in regards to this complaint. So now school's in session, Chris will be on day shifts. And we'll be able to
Are
have.
we gonna put a trailer there to grab speed and count cars, or is it just gonna be your observations? I think we talked about a
We
trailer.
talked about the possibility of putting the trailer there and then it got redirected. Yeah, I can't remember where it got put. Somewhere where,
It was like over by Meineke, maybe? That's where I remember seeing it last.
yeah, along the schools in there.
Over at the high school right now. If I remember correctly, this complaint had kind of more specific times when it was, someone correct me if I'm wrong. I mean,
Yeah, it was school.
it was like a specific time frame when people were trying to avoid traffic.
Yes,
Yeah,
the charter school traffic.
Right, so I think we didn't really need to do the cart to capture like a throughout the day thing. I think that's why we were applying Chris to it, to be able to say. We can target them for that specific time frame, see if it's an actual issue or not.
Yeah.
And be able to get you an answer. So
That traffic is something else.
And wondering,
Charter
if
school.
did the charter school do something different over, like I said, I drove up there and they have some more on-site circulation going and it's not as bad as it has been in the past, but yeah, I think they may have done something to at least help the situation.
Does the charter school have the same hours as the elementary school, as Archer Glen? No? So at least
They
their
get out,
congestion staggered.
yeah, they get out at, let's see, middle school gets out at 3:26. They get out at like 3:40 or something. And they have Fridays off. So I was telling myself I can drive through there on Fridays, but not after the middle school gets out. That's when people are starting to line up and it just. I mean, I hope a fire truck never has to go through there because it's just totally stopped both ways from Sunset through like to Old Town.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I made the mistake of taking that when I was running to a call, and even with lights and sirens, it's like.
There's nowhere to go. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, we gotta get them to stop doing that though. Keep driving.
So yeah, we'll have some more for you next month. Decision time next month.
Alright, to our last one, 2024-011, request for painted center line on Brookman Road between White Oak Terrace and Robin Hood Place.
Yeah, I looked into it. I didn't have a full explanation on it, but one county facility, they said they weren't planning on striping it. It doesn't have the traffic, and the old road doesn't line up with the current development. Our senior civil engineer had a few reasons not to do the center line stripe either. And we have similar questions about what the plan is for Brookman Road as a county facility, so we're just gonna keep getting comments about Brookman. And I agree, it's awkward with the fog line out there. We'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, right there, it's just the way it's set up, that's one on the left just kind of makes it kind of look like a center line. And so they're requesting a dashed yellow center line down the whole section of Brookman Road. And so the county's saying, no, they don't want to do that, plus resources, and this isn't the only unstriped county road. So my recommendation is just to intake the comment and do not think it's a county facility too. That's the other thing Dan and I were talking about. We want to be more kind of direct on, hey, this is a county facility, and give the complainants, either we're gonna submit it to the county forum or give them a portal. And then really that's all we can do is submit the comment and then, not spend a lot of our own extra time following up to ask why aren't you fixing Brookman, and our electeds haven't asked us to do that. So that's just extra work. So no is the answer for that. Keep an eye, I have concern. I live near, I live on Middleton Road and just concerned with the speed, posted speed. I mean, can we reduce it to 30? If there's not gonna be any major improvements for a long time, and there's been comments about the stop sign there too, so we're just gonna keep getting, for the committee, traffic safety committee is just gonna keep getting comments about Brooklyn Road for years to come.
This is fun.
Motion to close this one, since this is a county road.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? All right,
One thing on this one, Chair, I just want to remind the committee on is that while the road is county, there's two different realms here, right? So certain roads and areas are county, right? And or maybe city. So when they're county, just as Jason said, we need to put that to the proper, put the complainant to the proper people to address it, right? Which is county. That said, law enforcement works a little different. We as the city, as Sherwood Police, are responsible to patrol certain roads that may not be city-owned roads, but we as a jurisdiction are to patrol them. That makes sense? Yeah. So, in this case, the road itself in regards to asking us to do the work to try to see if it can get painted and things like that, that isn't Jason's or I swim lane as a city. It has to be stick handled over to the county. The aspect of this being something where if the complaint is that there's speakers on it, that is my jurisdiction, that is Chris's jurisdiction, that's our jurisdiction to be able to do that. I'm opposing, it's just a good thing to remind you of. We talked about this piece when this case first started. And if you remember correctly, what I wanted to remind you is that since it is something we can enforce speed on and do that, because it is part of our structured lines of what we do, we can go anywhere in the state. As law enforcement, we try to adhere to where we're gonna patrol and where county would patrol. There's pieces of this road that we can patrol,
Yeah, which is right
pieces.
here to about right here. So this stretch right here is within our jurisdiction line.
New residential area. So it's just a good reminder to know that we early on in this complaint did say that we would apply speed enforcement pressure to that road. And that's unchanged. Your motions on that originally, even though you're closing it out, we're still doing it.
So I'm curious, if I was speeding on this road and I got a ticket, am I going to court here by the library, or am I going out to Hillsborough to Washington County?
It'd be Beaverton, the justice.
Beaverton.
Washington County Justice Courts in Beaverton. It's on
Okay.
Erie Boulevard.
Okay, but it's, you guys patrol, Sherwood patrols it, but your Washington County jurisdiction.
Depending on where you got stopped on this road would determine what court you're being cited into.
Oh, really? Wow.
Now, anywhere in Washington County can be cited into either the Justice Court or the Circuit Court. If I stop you in the city of Sherwood, I have 3 courts I can cite you into. If it's within the city limits, we're gonna cite you into our city municipal court.
Uh-huh.
But if it's outside of our city limits, then I have a choice. I can either cite you into the Justice or the Circuit Court.
Okay. Wow.
And so that piece that he said is ours, he'd probably put you into Sherwood.
Sherwood's court, yeah.
And if it was outside of that, he could stop you and he could issue a citation to you, but it would go to a different court.
Same thing like if you're going down 99 and you actually crossed into Yamhill, by the time you pulled over, you would then ride in Yamhill, or it's where the infraction took
Where the
place?
violation occurred.
Okay.
all right, next item is GIS map update by city engineer.
I don't have any other update than going over it last time. We can,
We want to keep this on.
Oh, yeah,
For
it's
regular
gonna be a
check-ins?
long-term thing,
Okay.
and hopefully we can start kind of displaying the case files straight up on the map. So that's why we left it on there,
Okay.
and we're kind of toggling some of the attributes. I know Lisa had asked, to go through the attributes, and we haven't added too many more of those, so I just keep it on here, but no update on that for this meeting.
All right, committee comments, anybody have anything? Nothing to do there?
And your windshield wipers, make sure your tires are good. It's rainy season, be safe on the road.
We had a crack on Roy Rogers and Pilsner that we helped Washington County with yesterday, and you know, it just rained. And I stepped out of my car and like an ice cube rain.
Oh, really?
Because of the oils and the gas on the road. It was just, so this time of year, yeah, when it starts raining again, it's very slick.
All right, bad stories, man.
Nothing? Okay, with that will adjourn.
They-